Doctor, look.
Stand aside, nurse. I'm Dr. Homebrew.
Hey everybody, welcome to the show. This is Dr. Homebrew. The month is May, the time is now.
The month of May.
We're here to talk homebrew and be doctors. That's pretty much what we do. So, you know, if you feel a little pressure, just relax. Everything will be fine.
Just cough twice for me and, well, we're all professionals here.
And we'll let nature take its course, you know, and that's just kind of what happens. I was making up inappropriate lyrics to the theme song earlier, and I had myself laughing at my own joke.
That was wildly inappropriate. And wildly just you, man.
It was wildly hilarious.
Why are you not on, Brian? Oh, because you got to push the button. You got to push the button.
Which that? Oh, the one that's...
Push that button.
Oh, yes. Hi.
I know how to push Brian's button.
I am the least experienced of the Doctor's Homebrew. Can you tell?
That's true. I can tell.
I'm still the new guy.
You're trying to put your putter in your driver slot or something.
Yeah, no, don't ever do that. That's going to get
Never
you
do
some
that.
time in the hospital.
That's true.
Did you know that it is currently May 29th, 2019?
What?
And our first show was released on May 16th, 2013?
Oh. So...
Do some math.
I can't,
It
dude.
seems like
I'm
something
too
special.
tired.
So that's 6 years
6
and
years
a handful of days?
6 years of Dr. Homebrew. Look at us, huh?
Hey, man. Cheers.
Look at us. And what are we doing to celebrate our 6-year anniversary judging?
We're going to bore our listeners with a whole nother episode of just more of the same.
Yes.
That's what we do, man.
The white.
What do you want to move?
Move the white.
This?
Yes.
Move the white.
This. Move
That,
the white thing.
ambassadors of... Okay.
Thank you.
My thermos?
It's all up in my shot. I couldn't remember the word.
Okay. Thermos is very hard. It's a new word. It's a relatively new word. It just kind of came around a couple years ago. So
All I need is my thermos.
I got you. It's hard. Words are hard.
Is talking about beer like dancing about architecture, like that famous comparison people make, or do people really enjoy listening to us talk about beer we're sitting here drinking and having a good time with?
That's a good question, Brian. And
Put it out to the chat room. Let's see.
Let's see what the chat says.
I guess I should
chat
log
room
into
verdict.
the chat or something.
You should, because I'm not.
I don't know, man. I mean, usually we have like one or two people in here because we don't really give anybody a heads up at all
Hey, guess what?
on when this show is. So,
We're going live right now.
I just posted on Facebook to my friends like 45 minutes ago that I'm going live at about 8. So, hey, we might have a listener.
maybe. Well, look, there's two people in the chat currently, but whatever, man. This is podcasts now. You know what I mean? We're no longer the bastion of live internet radio. We're just a podcast like everybody else.
We're in a pod.
That's how it works. Today on the show, Brian, what do we have? We have
An American Pale Ale.
We have an American Pale Ale, and
We also have a Pivo Pils clone.
Yeah. Now is that like a German Pils? Or
It is,
what's the style guidelines for that?
I would call it like an Americanized Czech Pils, or maybe a little. Yeah, it's got elements of German and Czech, I think, in it. It's got the German hop kind of as what's that one called?
The Sapphire.
The Sapphire. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's Matt Brittleson kind of amping up the German style in a distinctly California way.
Nice. I love it. I am drinking a 21st Amendment Hell or High Watermelon wheat beer that is brilliantly clear.
Nice.
And I love it.
Since he calls it Pivo, I was thinking to check, yeah. But it's definitely an Americanized European Pils.
Yeah, with like do they dry hop Pivo? I forget.
Yeah.
Yes, they do.
They do, okay. Because we do have a dry hopped version of this. And it's a differentiated, right? So... Why would I wonder? We'll talk to Brandon. Is that who we're going to have on first? You want to have Brandon on first?
Yeah, let's talk to Brandon. I think
All right,
he's
let's do that.
East Coast dude, so we always try to get them on early.
Yeah, man. And how do people get on this show, Brian? Because we do need to put the call out. We do need some folks.
Please email me at brian@thebrewingnetwork.com. That's Brian spelled the correct way with an I. And when you get an email address...
It's not a matter of a correct way. It's the only way. Why would you ever spell Brian with anything but an I?
What's your email address going to be? Shar? I don't know.
That new guy.
I was first,
yes,
so I got
BS.
it.
Yeah, I think BS would be good. You get a lot of BS jokes, Brian Shar? I'm sure you do.
Less than you would think, frankly.
I'm sort of disappointed, honestly.
I'm not, but...
Well, that Brian, he's just a bunch of BS.
No.
I wonder if Brandon gets that. Like, Brandon with an E or with an O.
Brandon
which
spells
one is
his name
it,
with
dude?
an E.
Yeah.
And I have a good friend that spells his the same way. Actually, a bandmate of mine from a little San Francisco band called Wish Inflicted. Look up wishinflicted.com if you want to hear my,
I've heard of
my
them.
music.
Wow, we're doing plugs, personal plugs. Brian Shar, do you have anything to plug? You were just in Vegas, right?
As a matter of fact, got a couple things to plug. Yes, I was just in Vegas for Electronic Daisy Carnival. Super fun, great music festival.
Wait, what?
Yeah, it's this. My girlfriend loves electronic dance music, and there's the biggest festival in the world is in Vegas. For 3 if you guys could see Jason essentially crying here away from the mic, I have never seen him like this.
And I wasn't until I looked in the booth and saw Bev, and she's just actually imploded right
She's
now.
actually face palming right now as I'm telling this story.
I can't imagine you, Shar, at an electronic dance festival.
It was actually super fun. I wasn't sure what to expect.
I actually
Yeah.
will pay to see that. Like, take me with you next time.
I have some photos I'll show you later.
Yeah,
It's
hopefully
just
video, too.
It's total sensory overload
You know what
for
we
like
need to
3
do?
nights. It's great.
We need to do a documentary on Brian Shar going to EDM festival. Can
Yes.
you imagine?
I am entirely in favor of this.
Oh my God! So,
Just grab a camera, man.
are you like a Burning Man guy now?
It's like a different thing, but I would go. I'm kind of curious. I've always been curious
Very
about Burning Man.
Did you
Things
do?
about it.
Did you do like the delicately put like
The full experience?
the music enhancing substances at the thing, or were you?
There were many people that were engaging in such activities,
Right.
and you could tell because they were the ones that were sitting down at about 4 o'clock in the morning and are like, "Are you okay?" And yeah, I'm fine, okay. Cause I'm old, so I would generally be that guy. I was
you
like,
care
"Are you
for people."
okay?" Because if someone's kind of by themselves, I'm just kind of like, if you're not okay, I should probably call somebody.
I mean,
He's the dad at the EDM party.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to get you safe, brother. We're going to
But yes,
talk to me.
there were certainly many opportunities for those who wanted to enhance the experience
See,
to do so.
Number one, I knew that question wouldn't be too loaded because Brian's a lawyer and he could get out of it if he wouldn't incriminate himself. And number two, that's a good answer. Number three, I would be the exact same as you, the guy like questioning people, but really just making them feel highly uncomfortable when they're trying to come down off a substance. Are you okay, dude? You got green coming out of your ear? Are you fine? Are you okay?
You're jumping off of that building. Are you okay? But no, I stayed with my friend John Kissinger from my homebrew club, Words of Wisdom, for the night before and the night after we were there. And he was telling me how much, his new homebrew club, Snafu in Vegas, are big fans of Dr. Homebrew. And
nice.
just wanted to give him and Snafu a shout out. So thanks for listening and thanks for
Shout
being
outs.
fans. Really appreciate that.
Awesome.
Hey, and if Snafu, if you want to fly us out to Vegas and we'll do a live Brewing Network Dr. Homebrew show from your club meeting.
Yeah.
We will do that, but it's not in the
Anytime.
summer. Bev's shaking her head. You don't want a free trip to Vegas, Bev?
I hate Las Vegas.
So do I, but they have like machine gun shooting ranges, and I'm kind of curious about that.
Way to crap all over my shout out, Beverly.
I'm sorry. I actually, as I was saying that, I was like, this is the wrong thing to say, because I am not a fan of Las
Well,
Vegas.
you can
Not
hate,
everyone has to like everything.
you can
True.
hate Vegas, but you can like the people in Vegas.
totally.
Yeah,
It was not my bag, baby.
baby.
I watched Austin Powers this weekend.
Well, that was not clumsily delivered at all.
Well, we have the book, Vegas is my bag, baby, signed by Bevo.
Oh God! So and also I wanted to give one other quick
Wow.
not shout out, but
Brian Shar's
notification to people.
Shar's the Oprah of shout-outs.
Shout out, Shar.
I'm taking over your show here for
That's
a
all
couple
right.
of minutes.
Hey, it's our show.
My homebrew club, Words of Wisdom, WORTS of wisdom.org.
Should have a Z
is
instead of
having-
an S, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, aside from the fact that the club is like 30 years old and it's just always been that way, it is what it is. We got rid of the wizard, thank God.
There you go.
It's still very polarizing in our club. But
I
we
wouldn't doubt it.
have like a
The
yearly.
Autistic Brewers of America. I really like the Wizard. Anyway, go ahead.
We'll go into the Wizard story some other time. We do a competition in conjunction with San Mateo firefighters.
Okay.
And it's it's not for muscular dystrophy. It's against muscular dystrophy. No, it's for muscular dystrophy.
I don't know. You get good parking.
For fighting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It benefits
exactly.
the fight against.
Exactly. It benefits thank you, Beverly. It benefits the fight against muscular dystrophy.
Wow.
And the firefighters
Nice.
do this chili cook-off, and it's a big thing. It's a huge event in San Mateo. Take over this huge park. And we do a competition in conjunction with that, a standard BJCP sanctioned comp. You can send 3 bottles and do that. You can send a 4th bottle and participate in the firefighters' best of show, where the firefighters kind of choose people's choice, what's their favorite, and you get
cool.
like a really nice prize for that. So,
Nice.
if anyone's interested in sending beer in for that, we'd love to have entries from anyone that would like to participate. Go to wortsofwisdom.org, WORTS of wisdom.org.
Okay.
There's
It's not
a
regional.
button.
You can be
you
anywhere.
anywhere in the UA, anywhere in the world if you want, I guess. If you want
All
to
right.
send your beer from Chile, that'd be super cool, but
We
I'm
are
not sure
worldwide.
what it's going to be like when it gets here.
Chilean beer for
or
the
if you
chili
wanna-
cook-off.
That would be, I didn't even think about that joke, but that's because I'm that advanced. I'm so far ahead of myself.
That's
I was
right.
making that joke before I even knew it was funny. But yes, go to the website. There's a button for it. There's a link. Go ahead and click, and we'd love to have anyone that wants to participate.
Cool. I like it, man.
Right on.
I like it a lot.
The Horts have done some good stuff over the years. You guys did a Dickens Fair thing for a long while. Are they still doing that?
You know, I wish we did. Long story short, it's one of those things that just kind of, it was fun for a while, and then just kind of
Fizzled.
fizzled out. But Dickens Fair was really a fun comp.
Yeah, I mean, where
What's
else do
the Dickens?
you break out your Christmas ales and
it was
You
just
meats
limited to
and
British
stuff.
styles.
You
because
assault
it was
your
a
wife
Dickens
when
British
you
Fair.
styles,
come
okay.
home early or something? Like, what's the Dickens Festival?
Oh,
you
man.
get
Dickens Fair is
cholera?
like, yeah, exactly. You get all the cholera you could eat for
Yeah.
an entrance fee. Dickens Fair is like Renaissance Fair, but it's at Cow Palace.
Oh, right,
And
right,
it's
right.
like at Christmas time, and they have, part of it's shopping. You can like buy a bunch of Christmas themed stuff.
Ilana's gone to it.
Yeah, I mean, I know the Dickens Fair, but I just thought the homebrewing thing was a
The
separate thing.
spirit
but
of
it's
Charles
all right.
Dickens usually shows up and floats through the hall. you know.
Exactly. Actually, there is the guy with the who's Dickens's partner. God, what's his name? I forget. Marlowe.
Marlowe, yeah.
Marlowe. You see him like
Butthole
carrying all of the chains and stuff. Oh, these are the chains I bore in life.
No.
And Charles,
never
actually,
been
Charles
dressed to
Dickens,
chains before.
a guy dressed like Dickens, helps judge Best of Show. But that was years ago.
That's
That was
cool.
a good comp.
All right,
Bring it back.
Cool.
Bring it back.
Well, we got Brandon on the line here. Brandon, are you there? Brandon. Brandon, I cannot hear you, my
Okay.
friend.
Hello.
Now, playing the part of
Yeah.
Brandon will be our friend Kevin. No.
Well, Brandon, if you can hear this, call me back, homie. In the meantime, boys, let's
Call
get
me
the beer,
maybe.
huh?
Yeah, we can start talking about
Crack
it
that
while
beer. Yeah,
we're
let's
waiting
crack
to
both of
talk to
these.
him.
So he brought, 2 versions of the same beer. This is the dry hop pills, and that's the regular. Okay, so we judged the regular clone.
Yep.
And looking forward to chatting with him about it here. I'll crack
Yeah.
these bad boys.
Yeah, please crack them all. Well, let's give him a call again. Why not, right? Boop, 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 boop.
Okay.
I'm excited because Pivo's a real good beer. But you know what? I haven't seen it in the stores in a while. I don't know if they've like pulled back production or whatever. Brandon. Brandon.
For a second.
Hello.
Hey,
There he
Brandon,
is.
what's up, dude?
How you doing?
Good. How you doing, man? Can you hear us all right?
I'm well. I can hear you fine.
Perfect. We're pouring your beers right now, man. Thanks a lot for sending in all this stuff. I really appreciate it.
No, you're welcome. Thanks for tasting them.
Hell yeah, man. Do I get one, Brian?
No.
Motherfuckers are going to leave me high and dry up in this house? It's been my own show.
I
Can
only
you
had
believe
2.
this, Brandon? They're leaving me dry on my own show.
Well, Justin made us spread out so far. He put Brian way the hell over there.
Appreciate it.
Across the room. And
I moved
can
over here
hardly
last.
see him.
I moved over here last show because I like this mic
he
better.
likes that mic, yeah.
All right, Brandon. Well, hey, man, how long have you been homebrewing, and have you tried this before? This Pivo Pills. Why are these so different?
I have not tried it before, and I've been homebrewing for about 10 years or so now.
Okay.
Is this the same
That's
beer
not
or
bad.
2 different batches?
It looks like very different beers. One looks like a rosé, and the other looks like a Pilsner. So we opened the dry hop Pilsner and the Pilsner.
Yeah.
They are the exact same beer, the exact same batch. The only difference is the one that says dry hopped on it. I dropped about 6 ounces of Saphir hops down in the keg for a couple of days.
Huh.
Yeah.
Why do you think it has that weird rosé color to it, Brian?
Could be oxidation.
Think so?
Yeah. Brandon, are you just really tired, or have you had like 10 of these before? You sounded like really tired there in that last couple of sentences.
No, I'm good. I'm good.
All right, as long as you're good, man, that's cool. That's cool.
I know it's a little later there. We're playing. Yeah.
That's all right. Brian Cooper, do me a favor, dude. Let's start Brandon off here with his Pivo clone.
The Pivo Pils clone. Yeah. So we cracked the non-dry hop version of this. The fill was a bit high. I noticed it was just like maybe a quarter inch from the top, almost, or a little, a third of an inch from the top. Pretty full, but it still had a nice hiss. It didn't seem to hurt it. I guess some people are paranoid about oxygen, but as long as you cap on foam, it's just going to be CO2 in that headspace. Aroma-wise, it got a lightly spicy hop in there with a little bit of herbal. Clean, lightly toasty and bready and kind of cracker-like malt. There's a lot of malt here. No obvious esters, cleanly lagered, it seemed like. There was a light sulfury note behind the hops there, but I didn't get any diacetyl or acetaldehyde in it. Color-wise, rosé beer is an interesting way to put it. It's this deep, kind of orangey pink gold color.
Yeah, slightly
like a really deep
brownish
deep
rust,
gold,
though,
not amber in any sense, but yeah, just reddish orange and kind of pink looking. Brilliantly clear. It was nice and clear. You can see right through it. A low white head dissipated fairly quickly after pouring. It just dropped to a little collar there. Mostly fine bubbles though. Head didn't really form very well, but so I dropped a point for that. But flavor wise, I'm getting a nice, a fairly crisp tasting beer. The malt comes in with a toasty edge to it, which is a little odd and appeals to me, but medium low, spicy floral hop. Again, very crisp with a fairly dry finish, and there's a little hint of sweetness in the background. It's not completely bone dry. Definitely balanced slightly to the hop, but there's a firm malt behind that, pushing it up. Clean lager ferment profile. It seems like, there's no big esters poking out here, nothing really weird. It seems like you did a decent job with the lagering. The hops are lingering. The bitterness is pretty low and out of the way. And again, with that supporting kind of bready malt coming through in the aftertaste, as you take a sip, you get that crisp and the hop, and then it fades out and the hop kind of drifts off, and you're left with a little malty finish that just kind of dries off your tongue after a while. I was trying to decide if the water seemed to, maybe it was so crisp, maybe it seemed like the water was just a bit minerally, but it's actually okay. But I'd be interested to know what you did with your water on this one. Sometimes using a little too much sulfate, or it doesn't seem like it's over treated water in any stretch, but it's just there's a little mineral tinge to it maybe. Mouthfeel wise, I'm getting medium body, medium low carbonation. Could push that. It's crisp and refreshing. No astringency, no warmth, and not very creamy. But yeah, overall it's a fairly good clean Pils. Kind of on the American interpretation side of it, but very flavorful and clean. I thought it was just a bit dark for the intended clone, especially. And the maltiness was a bit of a curveball to me as well. It really shouldn't come across as strongly toasty and malty. So you might look at adjusting the malt bill on this and pull back the specialties and maybe push up the Sapphire late hop on that, because it wasn't coming through quite hoppy enough to me. And then we'll talk about. I'll let Brian talk about this version first, and then we'll comment on the dry hopped version.
Okay.
I gave the beer a 34. I thought it was very good. Generally close, but I'm wondering too. with the color here, yeah, maybe there is some oxidation coming in. It's not super papery, but
well, that's the dry hop version.
Something a little weird.
Is that the dry hop version?
No, this is the plain.
Oh, really? Oh, geez.
This is the one we judged. Yeah, the pink one.
Yeah.
So,
all right. So,
all right, Brian Shaw, go for it.
Yeah, I largely echo what Brian Cooper said. The aroma is initially hoppy. The hop aroma is floral and kind of at a medium-high level. Not quite as jasmine as the character of Pivo Pils. I mean, Pivo Pils to me is like a very strongly distinctive jasmine character to it, and the aroma of this wasn't quite that character. No diacetyl or off aromas. Pilsner malt is noticeable, a little toasted malt. As it warms, I get a little blueberry / mosaic type character out of this. But again, this is a clone beer, so we're kind of judging how close it comes to Pivo. I gave it a 7 out of 12 for that. This beer, as far as appearance goes, this beer is crystal clear. I should have deducted points for not being hazy, right? I mean, everything's hazy these days. But this is crystal clear. You can probably read through this thing. The head is low but very persistent. But the color is that kind of golden brown rosé, really not... You compare it to the dry hop version, it's markedly several degrees Lovibond darker than the other one. So it's not, the color's darker than expected. So I gave this 2 out of 3. Flavor-wise, flavor's initially malty. Get pills, but also some toasty, possibly even it came across like two-row malt. Was lacking the jasmine hop flavor of the Pivo. Did get some floral hop flavor, but overall didn't get a lot of hop flavor out of this. Pleasantly malty, a little caramelly. It's lightly grainy, very well attenuated. The toastiness kind of takes it further away from Pivo. And what's interesting, Brian, is I had like a little bit left in my glass from judging before the show. So some inside baseball here. We judge before the show, and then we come back and open up another bottle. And have some fresh sample for the show. When I went back and smelled the sample that we had poured out maybe an hour ago, it was noticeably and distinctly cardboard to me. Oh. It's really this is a much warmer sample. It's really, really cardboard. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I continue to get that, and I think we talked about oxidation. That to me, this color difference is so marked. I gotta believe something, and we'll talk about this later. I've got to believe something went wrong in your packaging when you got this in the bottle, because this is the same as you were saying. The only difference is one was dry hopped and one wasn't.
That shouldn't change the color at all.
Exactly. Yeah. The only difference I could think of is something happened, and it's across 2 different bottles. Something happened in your bottling of the non-dry hopped one that gave it this oxidized aroma and flavor.
Never mind.
And the darker color.
Yeah. I keep confusing the two. So I was like, I got another version of the dry hop. But
no, you're fine.
Yeah.
So I gave this 10 out of 20 for flavor. Mouthfeel, 5 out of 5. Body's medium to high carbonation. No warming, no astringency. Exactly what you'd expect for mouthfeel. Overall impression, this is a tasty beer that is generally pretty well executed, aside from the oxidation that seems to be entirely in the packaging. I gave it a 5 for overall impression and a 29 overall, primarily because when you're judging this clone beer category, you're judging how well you hit that mark of making the clone, and I just wasn't quite getting that jasmine and that character out of this clone that I get out of the original, and I've had probably way too much of the original. Frankly, it's really good.
It's a really nice summer beer. Yeah, I can see why I would want to clone it.
Yeah, it really is. And in terms of what I would do different next time, definitely try to control your oxidation on the cold side as best as you can. And then to the extent I haven't had the dry hopped one yet. And I'm not sure what your hop bill is, but Firestone Walker talks about Saphir as being the hop that is used for flavor and aroma in this. So generally, try to get your most fresh and best sourced Saphir that you can.
Yeah. And this has 6 ounces of the Saphir in it, he said. So this is going to be more.
And that's a lot. And it's weird.
He sent the recipe along, and I forgot at home. But Brandon, maybe you can hit us with that recipe real fast.
The recipe is just 100% environment two-row pills. It's pretty much based off of Brendelson's comments on the session from a few years ago when he was talking about Pivo pills. I believe it was Magnum. It was definitely dry hopless Saphir. But that's about it. Magnum for the dry hop or for the bittering, Spalt at 5 minutes, and Saphir dry hop for 5 days.
So you're out in Pennsylvania. Do you get Pivo pills out there?
We do not, and this is one of the reasons why I'm trying to brew, off that recipe is to try it out.
Yeah, I didn't think it made it out that far.
Now I had sent more than just a Pilsner in, and with your color comments, kind of had me wondering if maybe this was mixed up with the IPA I sent, because that does have
Definitely
a fair amount of caramel malt and stuff in
It doesn't seem like an IPA, and it's got Pilsner label right on the bottle, this white label.
Yeah.
If it's an IPA, this is going to score closer to 20 because there's just not any hop aroma and flavor character of this to make it an IPA.
Yeah, it is almost like a watered down, rosé, kind of a little oxidation. But I mean, I'll tell you, if we try the dry hop version, I think that tastes pretty damn close to Pivo.
I like the dry hop version a lot better.
Yeah, I would have a hard time not paying for this at a bar. I would drink this. The dry hop version is great.
Yeah,
dry hop version is crisper. It finishes more. It's got a much more crisp and Pilsner-like finish. It doesn't have that kind of toasty caramel to the extent that the other one does. Yeah, the dry hop version is much better.
Yeah, I mean,
it's
maybe
more in the dry version. Like it's a little honey-like kind of malt, a little grainy.
Is there a little like Diamet, a little butterscotch, a little bit, tiny little bit?
I'm not getting butterscotch, but a little sulfur, possibly a little DMS.
Yeah, a little buttery.
A little bit is okay.
Yeah, it's totally. I mean, considering it's a Pilsner, I guess it's totally fine. But no, the dry hop version, great beer, man, and it tastes pretty damn close.
Yeah, that's at least 5 points higher, I would think.
It tastes pretty damn close to Pivo.
That's mid. Dry hop version is close mid-30s, minimum. So as far as I can tell, just something happened in the packaging of the non-dry hopped one. Because otherwise, the color wouldn't be so drastically different.
Yeah.
If we had known, we would have judged the dry hop one.
Yeah.
But we wanted to taste that as an aside.
The comments on the color is what really made me think that maybe they're mixed up. But if you have the bottles there with the labels on them, I mean, I believe you that you've got the same. For me, holding them up, the only difference is just a slight haze in the dry hop version, and not like a yeast haze or anything like that. Just how you get from an IPAs a lot of times when you dry hop and they just get kind of that haze.
Yeah, we've done 2 different bottles and both of them said Pilsner and they both looked about the same. It's just odd.
Yeah,
I'm gonna do the third bottle just because.
Maybe something did happen in the packaging.
Yeah, let's see that. Is this the third bottle of the regular pills?
Yeah, that's all I can imagine is something happened in your process where the.
Oh, this one looks good.
Wow.
This one looks good.
Okay.
And that's the not dry hopped one, Jason.
Correct.
Okay, so we have
no. It just it looks different in my glass, right?
Yeah.
It's a little darker than the dry hop version, but it's a little lighter than the other 2 bottles were, I think. I think we're just seeing bottle variation here and possibly some oxidation in the bottling process.
And it looks more concentrated in the small little 4-ounce tulip glasses.
Yeah, these.
Like I poured it in a pint glass, and it's a lot lighter.
Yeah, so it looks more normal.
If you're gonna do it at home, Brandon, might as well just put it in like a little smaller glass, concentrate a little bit more. But I don't know, man. Do you have any questions in the comments, or some process questions, or anything for the guys?
No, I think you guys pretty much hit it. My real concern was just getting independent feedback. For as much hops as I put in the beer, I just feel like I don't feel like there's as much dry hop there as should be with that many hops. So I just wanted to hear, what you guys thought about that. So
I would keep making that dry hop version.
Get Brandon, give us some more details. Tell us, what yeast did you use? What temperature did you ferment at? For how long? Do you temp control your ferment? Give us a little information about that stuff.
It's White Labs WLP 830. This was pitched at 52 degrees. Trying to pull up the fermentation here. It was held at 52 for, I don't know, it looks like roughly 5 or 6 days, raised up to 58 for a diacetyl rest and held there for about a week, and then dropped down to right about 32 or so, and conditioned there.
Should it be warmer for a diacetyl rest?
Oh, you can get away with 58.
58?
For that long, it's probably going to be fine, yeah.
I guess I will pick nits and say for a lager ferment, you want to go more than 5 days at 52. You want to go for more like a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And then because you most of your fermentation, I'm going to guess, took place at 58, which is still fine. I didn't get a lot of esters or anything out of this beer, but for a lager ferment, you're going to want to ferment in low 50s for a couple of weeks.
Well, did you check
You'll
gravity?
jack it up slowly to diacetyl rest for a day or so, and a lot of your diacetyl you'll burn through on the way to the rest.
Yeah. Did you check gravity when you started raising the temperature?
Yeah, I was actually using one of these new hydrometers that go in the ferment. It's called the Tilt. It's one of the wireless deals. So I raised the temperature whenever it got, I think, like to 1020 or 1018, something around there.
Yeah,
is when I put it up to
most of the way
the 58.
Okay.
And then just I left it go for a couple of days after after the gravity stopped dropping, before I took it down to the 32.
So what about your?
And what I did there is I just pulled a probe out of the actual fermentation and hang it in the fridge, and turn the fridge to 33, and just kind of let the air slowly take the liquid down to match.
What about your bottling technique? What are you using for bottling?
A counter pressure bottle filler out of a keg.
Okay.
So that has probably been in the keg for a few weeks before putting it in the bottle.
Yeah.
So the bottles are purged well, counter pressure filled, and capped immediately on foam.
Man, it sounds like you're doing
that's
right.
Yeah, and I feel like that's what really just kind of strikes me as odd, that there's such a color difference. These are only in shipping for 3 or 4 days. I can't imagine that they would change color that quickly.
No, and for one to do it and not the other.
Another reason why I was thinking, maybe somehow they just got that mixed up with the IPA that was in the same box.
Yeah.
So you bottled the Pivo that wasn't dry hopped. Let's think about the details of this. So the one that wasn't dry hopped, did you bottle at a different time, like a week before the dry hopped one?
No, I literally sat down and just moved the bottler from one keg to the next for all the beers that I sent out to you.
Wow.
Yeah, I think the one we're tasting is not right, and it sounds like you did everything right. It's probably, I don't know.
So you fermented them in 2 separate fermenting vessels then, one that was dry hopped and one that was not.
Absolutely not. No, they were exactly the same beer. They were kegged out of the same batch, a 10-gallon batch and two sixtels. And then the only thing different about the beers is I took one of the it's a stainless steel mesh canister.
Mm-hmm.
I put 6 ounces of dry hops in it, dropped it down in the keg. This is after the keg's already carbonated and everything. I just opened it up, dropped it in there.
Mm-hmm.
Sealed it back up, and put it back under pressure and let it set for 5 days.
Well, I guess what I'm trying to understand, that I'm not sure I quite, it's probably my own fault here, I'm not understanding is, so you sent us one that was dry hopped and one that wasn't. So what was the difference in timing between when you bottled the one and not the others? You took it off the same keg before you dropped that 6 ounces in? Or
he said he split a 10-gallon into 2 fermenters,
10 into 2
dry hopped
fermenters,
one, and then bottled them on the same day.
So all I can think of, do you ferment? You ferment in carboys or buckets or better bottles or what?
I'm in a Blickman conical, and I guess I should clarify that as well. The beers are both dry hopped in the conical. The one that I have listed as dry hop just has an additional dry hop in the keg.
Okay.
All that I can think of is that maybe there was, maybe the O-ring at the top of the conical or some kind of seal maybe got unsealed at some point during the process for the one that wasn't additionally dry hopped. and maybe let oxygen in during the end of fermentation or after fermentation was complete. That's the only guess. I mean, Brian, what do you think?
That doesn't make sense to me because the third bottle is lighter. The third bottle that we opened is almost as light as the dry hop version. It's just a mystery. I think it's the beer gnomes have intervened with your beer somehow.
Brandon, what kind of
FedEx
capping? What kind of capping device do you use? Is it a bench capper or one of those janky ones that you got to hold on top and use both hands to cap with?
It's a bench capper, I guess you'd call it. Yeah, I mean it's kind of a mixture of plastic and steel. It's nothing great. I don't do much bottling.
And the bottles were clean. Everything.
It seems to work well and seal up. I've never noticed any leaking bottles or anything flat. That I've opened up. That's been bottled for any extended period of time.
I mean, we're kind of trying to troubleshoot remotely here through a lot of different little weird stuff. Yeah, that's all I can think of is, it's probably not in the fermenter. Probably something has gone wrong. And these were new bottles you bottled into?
No, they were reused. I think well cleaned though.
PBW.
Hopefully you didn't see any. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's what you do. Well, sounds like you're doing everything right, man.
Yeah, I mean, these are. Yeah, they're bottles. I mean that I would drink and immediately rinse out, and then soak in PBW to get the labels off and whatnot, and then they were stored upside down.
Take a good look at them, because when I did that back in the day, no matter how clean I thought they were, I remember one day pulling them out of the box, and there was like yeast bits on the inside still. Maybe it's just me being slovenly, probably the case, but. You be super careful when you do that. It sounds like your process is right, and maybe the one thing you have to do is always dry hop extra. That's the one that we really like. So dry hop all the time, man.
I did bottle a couple of extras at the same time I did the ones that I sent to you. So I'm gonna take your comments and go back to those bottles and drink from the bottles to see if I can kind of recreate any of this, because I've only drank it out of the keg up until this point.
Those didn't get shipped, but yeah,
check it out.
Who knows? Yeah.
All right, Brandon, thanks, man. I apprate it, dude.
Good beer though, especially that dry hop.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
Yep. Thank you.
All right, take it easy, man.
Thanks, man. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, that's a tough beer to clone. There's not much to hide behind. And
no,
it
absolutely
is.
not.
And this is one of the tougher conundrums we've had on this show, is trying to figure out what's the difference in these two beers when they're so similar and handled so similarly, and yet they show so differently here in the glass.
That's right. All right, everybody, we're going to take a quick break real fast here on Dr. Homebrew, and we're going to come right back, and we're going to talk to, I believe, Will with American Pale Ale, right, Brandon?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, this is Dr. Homebrew. We'll be right back.
back to the examination.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for sticking around here. It's Dr. Homebrew. You know the dude. Trying to get
an alter ego show called Dr. Commercial Brew. That would be kind of fun.
Oh, that'd be great. I would love that. I would love that very much, as a matter of fact. Let's get Will on the line here. We're going to talk about his pale ale. And
Probably make more
I'm excited
money
about it.
with commercial brew, like telling commercial brewers how to make their beer better.
Now, that'd be a pretty good show. We need to pitch that to Justin at some point,
Why
right?
is Will not online? Will, what's going on, dude?
Brian and I will speak among ourselves while we're getting Will online.
We were just emailing with him a second ago. I think he's there. He'll come through.
Maybe he's like that Will from Stranger Things that got sucked into that alternate dimension with
man.
that Demigorgon.
I wonder how much he had to pay that Demigorgon to get sucked that hard into.
Oh man,
the
I'm excited
dimension.
because we're like a month or two away from season 3 of Stranger Things, and I don't know about you guys. I'm really excited. That's going to be really cool.
Yeah, Stranger Things 3 when boners hit in science class.
They are going to be about that age, aren't they?
That's
Oh man.
let me tell you, that's a strange
Oh my
thing.
God, what's happening to me right now?
We're going in the upside down right now. I'll have to
What is this thing? Oh my God!
pee in my face. 'Cause I'll be upside down. Will, are you there? Hey, what's going on?
Hey,
man?
how's it going?
Good. How you doing?
Oh, not too bad. Not too bad. I'm not sure what's going on with Skype.
That's all right. Don't worry about it. Happens all the time, man. So
You didn't pay your Skype bill this month.
that's right. That's right. So we have a pale ale here to go over with you, right?
An American
Yep.
pale ale.
American
man.
pale ale. Have you? Brewed, I'm assuming you've brewed a pale ale before, right?
Yeah, I think so. Probably.
Okay. All right. Do we have any glasses for this beer, fellas,
do.
or are we glassless?
There's glasses over.
Couple right here, right?
All right, but we have 2 glasses and we have 4 people in the room.
I'll
So
move it
how
more.
can we
I can
fix
rinse the
this
glass.
problem? If only we had producers on the show, Will. I apologize that we're wasting your time because we're not ready and prepared.
Oh man, I'm just gonna rinse the glass.
I apologize
Will,
about
where are you
that.
calling in from?
Central Illinois.
Nice. Do you belong to a homebrew club?
Yeah, the Homebrewers of Peoria.
Nice. So HOP, H-O-P.
Yep.
Yep, every homebrew club is a pun, and I know that drives Jason crazy, but I kind of like that.
Yeah, puns are cool, dude.
And I'm old and I'm a dad, so I like this whole. I like the dad puns. What can I say?
Excuse me.
Now, Brian is allergic to not having glasses in the studio. I'll tell you that right now.
I'm allergic to hops.
All right, Brian Shar, since we've already judged this, you want to go for it?
Yes, I would love to.
Yeah.
So, let's see, for the aroma, my initial impression is sort of medium hop aroma. It's definitely fruity, not quite citrus. I get more like a little more estery type, maybe more like a blueberry, not quite mosaic blueberry, but not super citrus. There's a low malt. Identify maybe like a 2-row, no diacetyl. The fruit. What's interesting about the hops, the aroma of this beer is that the hop aroma, it gets awfully close to what would be a traditional kind of ester profile that I think of as fruit salad, but it's not. To me, it's not an ester; it's the hop character. So I definitely liked that. But still, the hop aroma is at a low level, definitely a little lower than I would expect for an American pale ale. And maybe it's because it's 2019 and everything in an American pale ale just keeps getting bigger aside from perhaps the alcohol and the bitterness. So I gave this 6 out of 12 for aroma.
We need a hot tub time machine.
Well, let's get to work on that after the show. What do you say?
It's true.
So appearance 3 out of 3, extremely clear. You could essentially read through this beer. Very slight haze. Probably should have docked you 3 points for it not being hazy, but not everything has to be hazy in 2019. This is clear like it's supposed to be, and a slight haze from hop bitterness or dry hopping is definitely acceptable. It's the head is large and persistent. Color's light gold, but appearance is great. Flavor. Initially, the impression for me was malty, followed by a ramp up in bitterness to about medium high. The hop flavor was lower than I expected. I got kind of hop flavor at a low level that was fruity, kind of a plum, stone fruit, peach sort of a flavor. But I think primarily sort of I consider that a plum flavor. Very well attenuated. Good job on that. Balances toward the bitter. Finish is long and bitter in a pleasant way. Definitely lower hop flavor than I would have expected. Did get in the finish sort of a low cardboard oxidation that I didn't get in the aroma. So I gave this 10 out of 20 for flavor. Mouthfeel, I got a slight slickness, but no diacetyl flavor. So that's something I noted in mouthfeel rather than flavor, just a slight slickness. It could be just because this beer is wet. I don't know about your wetness factor. We can talk about wetness factor later on. That's a joke. But God, no one is laughing at my wetness factor thing one bit, you guys.
Sorry.
Jeez, it's like I'm
should,
talking into the void of Podland or the pod waves here.
It's true.
The listeners are laughing hysterically.
Everyone in their individual
wetness
pods.
factor is a little, maybe a little creepier. What do you want to hear from the podcaster?
That's the. If you go back and listen to the session from like 7 or 8 years ago, there was a lot of joking about the wetness factor of a given beer.
That's a big Sully joke. Yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely a Sully thing. In fact, if you go get like a blah 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 IPA 6-pack, the wetness factor is listed on the 6-pack box. Fun fact.
Nice.
I'm probably the only person in the world that's ever noticed that aside from Sully. So it's a shout out to Sully there. No warming. It's really more perky than creamy. The mouthfeel was great, 5 out of 5. Overall impression, I really like this beer, and I would happily have a full pint of this. I think it's quite good. But it's not quite in line with style. Target Eye, I think this beer is simultaneously a little bit too bitter without enough hop aroma and flavor. Target IBUs for this style are 30 to 50. The bitterness in this, for me, comes across as maybe even higher than 50. I get really high bitterness out of this beer. And then a pale ale, kind of the difference to me between a pale ale and an IPA is that an IPA has like a shit ton of bitterness as well as hop aroma and flavor. The pale ale has the malt, and this beer certainly has some malt character still, but it also needs to have a lot of hop flavor and hop aroma. And this also differentiates from the session IPA, which is hop water, and you have like no malt and hop aroma and flavor and kind of low bitterness. So the malt part of this, I think, really succeeds. I think it's a little lacking in the hop aroma and the hop flavor. So for me, I would back off on the early hops, those bittering hops, maybe 25, 30%. Bump up those later hops at flame out or slightly before flame out for flavor and aroma. Bump those up, 30, 40%. Just redistribute where your hops are, and I think this will end up being a really good beer. I mean, the fact that it's so well attenuated tells me your fermentation, there's no fermentation flaws in this that I'm getting.
Right.
So your fermentation basics are really good. All you've really got here, to me, is kind of a recipe issue of shifting your hops around, and this is going to be a really spectacular APA. So overall, I gave this 29 out of 50. I think it was good, and I'm going to continue to drink the rest of my sample while Brian gives you his opinion from the Cooper side.
Awesome.
All right, yeah.
Hanging with Mr. Cooper.
Yeah. So, good hiss upon opening it, and the fill seemed okay on the bottle. Aroma wise, had a pleasant kind of medium light citrusy, and a faint kind of resiny hop note in there. There's some low bready kind of, not really toasty, but like a little more than bready, just crackery, and maybe a faint hint of some bread crust in there or something that keeps the malt, up there and a little more interesting. But it's maybe poking through a little more than I'd want. And the hops are definitely, I agree, a little bit light in the nose. Medium fruity esters, just kind of general, fruity esters. Some of that also, like you said, coming from the hops probably. Again, clean, no DMS or diacetyl, not getting obvious alcohol here, as it shouldn't really have anything crazy poking through there. Seems cleanly fermented, but just kind of low overall to me. Like it's there, it's a beer, and it's malty and a little hoppy, and it smells more like the classic APA. So, yes, we are going to travel back. Once we get that hot tub time machine, we're going to travel back 20
That's
years
right.
to the 1990s and taste it next to some real classic stuff.
That's what
yeah.
a time machine sounds like. That
Yeah.
whole
It's the
thing.
like
Yes.
the Wayne's World sound.
Exactly.
Yeah. Appearance-wise, the pale golden colored beer had a long lasting low white head, very fine bubbles, and great clarity. So pretty nice looking beer. Flavor-wise, I'd say pleasantly kind of lightly caramelly and grainy toasty malt in there. To me, the bitterness was not super high. I would say medium low bitterness myself. Pretty much out of the way, just kind of supporting the hop flavor, not really poking out too harshly. The hop flavor is citrusy and a little grapefruity, a little lime, a little, along the lines of the classic thing, citrus and a light resin. Ale ferment seems pretty clean. Again, the hops are kind of generally low, but no alcohol was noted. The balance is just slightly towards the hops, but again, there's a fair amount of malt there supporting that. It did finish dry. It seems nicely attenuated. The hops do linger in the aftertaste just a little bit. It's not a malt bomb by any stretch of the imagination. So mouthfeel wise, it's medium light body, medium carbonation. Didn't get any alcohol warmth. Not very creamy, but also no obvious astringency. Still all the same. It's a fairly smooth beer and refreshing. It's nice. It's easy to drink. Nothing too sharp or offensive here. It's just kind of, a little, maybe not biting or in your face or sharp or super hoppy, but it refreshes and it makes you want another sip. Very pleasant American pale ale, I would say. It is a little more along the lines of a classic. I would, especially for modern tastes, really like a little more hop in that finish. And right now it's just almost even with the maltiness, which is pleasant and inviting, but it's not quite to style. And it could be maybe it's a slightly aged version that was really good 4 months ago, and now it's past its prime a little bit. I'm suspecting that might be the case, but your water treatment seems good. Your ale fermentation is cleanly made. Nice job overall. So I gave it a 33. I thought it was a very good beer and generally within the style parameters, just a little light. So, but thanks for sharing it. Very good and
not bad.
Yeah, we've spoken with you before. You were the ginger hibiscus blonde guy. We had some fun with that one. I remember.
Oh, he was the ginger hibiscus guy.
Remember?
Oh, yes, I remember. How could you forget that one?
Pretty good. Hey, Will, do me a favor, man. Let's run through your recipe for this pale ale, would you?
Yeah. So in terms of malt, 11 pounds of pale ale, 2 pounds of wheat, a pound of Munich 10, half an ounce of Apollo at 60, an ounce of Centennial, and an ounce of Idaho Gem at 15, ounce and a half of Centennial, and an ounce of Idaho Gem at 5. 2 ounces of Centennial for the dry hop, and half an ounce of Idaho Gem, and pitched the Voss Quebec yeast and fermented at 96 degrees.
Quebec yeast. Okay.
Okay.
That's the twist.
There's a little twist.
When did you brew this?
So I brewed it February 1st, and then I bottled at the end of February.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wonder, Brian, because my familiarity with the Quebec yeast is about 0. Because that's a lot of hops. I mean, you put a lot of hops in at the end, and my recommendation is put more hops in at the end. You put a lot of hops in at the
Yeah,
end.
it sounds like.
I wonder if the fermentation temperature drove off the aroma and flavor hop components otherwise might stay in. Because that's 96. That's way up there.
That's you can use the Quebec at that kind of temperature.
Well, certainly, and it will attenuate. But what does that do to the hop character?
I think it probably is pulling away from it and giving you a little more fruitiness in the mix there and kind of accenting the maltiness and pulling away from the hop. Maybe, like you say, just temperature wise, some of the more volatile aromatics are being driven off by that high ferment temp.
Yeah, I got to believe the vigor of the ferment at that temperature and that temperature itself. Because you want the point of the dry hopping and the aroma hopping and the flavor hopping, you're putting it in the end so the boil, which is high temperature, doesn't drive those volatile compounds off. And you're getting up then to almost 100, which is getting to be almost half of your boil temperature. I can't believe that's not going to have an effect on the hop flavor and aroma, which is kind of, I think, what happened in this beer.
Yeah, I mean, think about a Belgian-style IPA versus an American IPA. When you just use that Belgian yeast, same beer, same everything, the yeast takes over, and the yeast character starts to fight with the malt and the hops that are there and pull away from your perception of the hops that are there. And they're still there. It's not, I don't think that Belgian yeast is scrubbing it away unless you do something really crazy. But the yeast affects everything, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's a really good point, Brian. And I think a lot of the Belgian IPAs, to me, didn't work when that was a thing. In part because the yeast flavor was competing with the hop flavor, but part of it was maybe the temperature. And I'm not getting the yeast flavor competing with the hop flavor here. What I'm kind of getting is less hop flavor and less hop aroma.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, the yeast fermented things cleanly. It did its job. It got it nice and dry, as an American pale ale should be. But it did something to the hops there.
Yeah.
Do you get the same thing, kind of, Will? What do you think?
Yeah, that's kind of why I sent it in to you guys. Is I think even 2 months ago or whatever, I just didn't quite have as much hop character as I was really hoping for or looking for.
And you dry hopped it too? Did you try to bring it up even more? Well,
yeah,
you tasted it.
I dry hopped it, but I usually do a dry hop at pitch to avoid adding oxygen.
Yeah.
But it sounds like maybe I need to switch to maybe a keg hop or
you can
something.
go back and keg hop this.
Sure, why not?
Will, I haven't
Everyone
heard
likes a
of
dry hop, dude.
I haven't heard of Idaho Gem. I've heard of Idaho 7. Is Idaho Gem like a related hop from like Pacific Northwest or something?
He owns the gas station at the far side of town.
Idaho Gem, yeah.
I'm not sure. It's I think it's a Yakima varietal that came out in the last few years.
Okay, I'll look that up on Yakima, the website.
It's supposed to be kind of like a tropical fruit, a little bit of citrus to it, that kind of thing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It was definitely fruit forward, I think.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Hop
It's very,
character
very
was
fruity.
nice.
Definitely comes through.
And you like that Centennial? I like Centennial too. That's a good classic one.
Absolutely. Will, do you have any questions for the guys? Otherwise, we'll let you go.
No, thanks, man.
Okay, cool. Thanks a
Thank
lot,
you,
man.
sir.
Yeah,
See you, man.
Thanks for coming on again.
Yeah. I was like the old repeat customers here on the clinic, I guess. We can call it the clinic. or
Sometimes
something.
a shot of beer penicillin takes care of the problem. Sometimes you got to come back.
That's true. All right, everybody, we're going to take a real quick break. We're going to come back, and then we're going to leave again. So hold on. Don't go anywhere. You're not going to want to miss this. It's Dr. Homebrew.
I'm sorry to tell you this, but we're going to have to pour you out.
Back to Dr. Homebrew.
Hey, thanks for not leaving, everybody. This is the most important part of the show, where we end the show. It's my favorite part of the show.
We wrap it up.
We wrap it up, and I come alive once we're not doing the show, and then we do it again, and then I just.
And we decide who gets an autographed picture of Brian and I.
That's
right?
true. That's true.
That's right. We each autograph each other's photos and kind of scotch tape them together. It's really kind of cool. You should check it out.
Autographing each
Yeah,
other's
that's right.
photos.
So just a real quick recap. I think we'll just do that. The Pivo Pils clone had a little oxidation issue, probably color changed, which was kind of odd. But the beer was good. The dry hop version was not that.
Yeah.
And it tasted really good.
I wish we had judged that one. That was good. Yeah. So
that was 5, 6, 7 points higher than the rosé color one.
Yeah, and I wish that we could pinpoint what happened so we can tell you what not to do, because that's sort of the point of the show, right? It's to learn from other people's mistakes.
It's a
we
puzzler.
haven't taught. There's been no learning experience here today, hardly at all.
No, none at all. And then, of course, Will's Pale Ale.
We learned a little bit there.
We did.
We learned about Quebec yeast
and fermentation temperature.
And it amazes me how high you can ferment those. And
I know, right?
They taste just fine.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Weird.
Those crazy Norwegians.
Whom to who. Yeah.
Speaking of crazy things that you can hold in your hand, like Norwegians, I imagine, are very tiny people. I don't know. The Smart Brew water testing kit incorporates a revolutionary photometer system, which is the first and only one on the market with its own app. It's the only meter that runs water tests with no math needed. You have the ability to test for over 40 different water quality tests. 4, of course, come preloaded because it's useless if it doesn't have any tests on it when you get it, right? Come on. So you get 4 already, and you can buy more. You can test for stuff like total alkalinity, chloride, calcium hardness, pH, sulfate, and more, with only 4 mils of water needed for each test. Visit smartbrewkit.com. Enter code TBN10 at checkout, and you can save $10 on either the standard or advanced Smart Brew testing kit.
Those kits are pretty cool.
I really like them, man. For sure.
I love that thing. I have that at home. It's great.
You know exactly where your water's at.
I got to get mine back. We have a Dr. Homebrew company one.
I think Beardy has it.
No, I know exactly who has it. I gave it to the Rare Barrel guys, and then one of their brewers left to go work at another brewery and took it.
So Jay's playing around with it over there.
No, someone left and took it.
Oh, no.
So I'm trying to work with Jay to get it back from this unnamed brewer called Mike.
So it's nice for me because I'm in the East Bay now, so instead of that Peninsula hetchy, always super soft water, got East Bay mud, so that means you gotta check it out.
I'm literally playing Brian out.
Yeah, play me out, man.
Yep.
All right, everybody,
Happy
thanks a lot. This is
6th
Dr. Homebrew.
anniversary.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, happy
Dr.
6th anniversary, Brian.
Where's my anniversary present, JP?
I don't know. Let me finish my goddamn sentence. This is Dr. Homebrew, everybody. Thanks a lot for tuning in. If you are listening live, Nate, hang on. We'll be back in about 10 minutes. We got some more beers. Happy 6th anniversary to us, Brian.
Well, yes.
What do you think?
You're welcome.
Yeah. Well, thank you. All right, everybody. Thanks a lot. This has been Dr. Homebrew, and you've been great.
Doctor, look!
Stand aside, nurse. I'm Dr. Homebrew.
Welcome, everybody. This is Dr. Homebrew. Here we are. We're with you right here in the studio on an undisclosed weekday night. I'm not going to tell you what day of the week it is because then you would just stalk us, and I don't appreciate that.
We would have people in the chat room and stuff.
I would just, women screaming all that kind of stuff. Mainly go away, but for the most part, I'm correct. I'm not incorrect.
Women scream for Dr. Homebrew all the time, right?
Yeah, right.
Well, people know doctors don't work Saturday, Sunday, Monday, so that only leaves 4 days for them to kind of narrow down for when we might be here.
For them to scream.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, we got a good show for you, of course, because that's what we do. Brian, what do we have? We have a
California Common.
California Common.
And a Doppelbock.
And a Doppelbock, okay. How many Doppelbocks do you think we've gotten on this show?
8.
Not many.
Not enough.
Are you just like making that up, or? I mean, I would guess if I had to put a number on, I would say like 4.
Maybe you're right.
Nope. In 100, ew, I just touched the microphone.
Somebody do the math for us, and if you,
Jason's totally scratching his beard and like rubbing it on his sleeve,
I
oh my God, I touched the mic.
No, my lip touched the mic cover, which is.
Oh yeah,
dude, my lips are all over this mic cover. It's nobody used this mic because my lips are all over this thing.
Warren uses that mic.
You gotta build up your tolerance somehow.
So it's like I'm licking Warren's beard right now.
That's true.
Oh God, that's disgusting.
That's true. Okay, and then for the Doppelbock, we have Kevin in the studio. Kevin, how you doing, man?
Good, how are you?
Perfect. Here, I should probably turn your mic.
That might help. Let's turn my.
Let's try that again. Kevin, how you doing, man?
Doing all right, how are you?
Nah, not too bad, not too bad.
All right.
Thanks for coming in, man.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, all right. We'll do the Doppelbock with you later, but we're going to do the California Common first. I think what we're going to do is take a quick break.
Yeah.
Though.
So, yeah.
Brian Shaw, do you have any shout-outs that you want to get
Shout
out
out
of the way?
time.
Actually, I want to say hi to my mom. I got my mom, or I gave my mom a tablet that I had, kind of an older tablet I've never used for Mother's Day.
Stone tablet.
Because she's fine. Exactly. You take a chisel and a hammer and some shit. So
I have 5 lines on it, but I just wiped
No, my
them
mom
out.
has finally expressed an interest after like 15 years and maybe using the internet or a tablet or something.
Yeah.
So I thought, you know what? This thing's gathering dust at my place. I'm going to box it up and ship it to her. So I put Stitcher on there in advance with Dr. Homebrew and the Norwegian Serial Killer podcast, which is supposed to be really good. But that way, Mom, if you're listening, hope you're enjoying Dr. Homebrew.
Yeah,
hope you're proud of me, Mom. I love you.
Yeah, and your free trip to Norway that I'm giving you.
Yeah, I just thought it was in Norway. Hello, dear listeners. Yeah.
I hope neither of my parents ever start listening to this show.
Brian, we raised you better than this. Right. I'm not sure if that's your parents or my parents at this point.
I want to give a shout out to my homebrew club, the Mad Zymerages, of which I am currently the secretary. We had a meeting about 3 weeks ago, and I still haven't posted the minutes, so I'm slacking. But Kevin, our guest for tonight in the studio, is a part of our illustrious club, and I believe also a dual membership with Doe's, which is another fine club.
Definitely.
It's all right.
Yeah. He's brewed some tasty beers over the years, and it's
Awesome.
fun having him on. And we were sitting at a homebrew club meeting, and he said, I have a beer I want some feedback on.
Yeah.
And I just had a guy drop out of the show, and I was like,
I know some
come
guys.
down
Yeah.
up to Concord?
All right.
And he was game.
Well, good. That sounds
Nice.
good. All right. Let's take a quick break real fast. Then we'll come back. We'll jump right into the beers. It'll be a good time. It'll also be Dr. Homebrew. So hang on. We'll be right back.
Now, back to the examination.
All right, everybody, thanks a lot for sticking with us. We're going to get Josh on the line here and talk some Cal Common, which is another good style.
Yeah, we don't get that very often, and that's a
No.
kind of a California-specific style, and one of the few, that has our fine state's name in the title. It is a 19B in your 2015 BJCP guidelines.
Yes, absolutely.
It is known for its toasty and minty hop notes
and woody
from the northern style.
Minty?
Woody and minty and quote rustic.
Shit!
Hop aromas.
I didn't know that.
And I was talking with Brian earlier, trying to figure out what rustic smells like, and you told me to what?
Go
To
lick a
shut
barn.
up.
Yeah.
Get out of my face.
Go lick a barn.
with your
Go lick a
bullshit.
barn, and that's going to be rustic. No, but I think what they're trying to say is like Northern Brewer is the classic hop that's like woody and minty, and I don't know what the hell rustic is supposed to taste like either. That's like the dumbest thing.
Like unfinished?
Sorry, Gordon.
Yeah, I don't know. We got Josh on the line. Josh, are you there?
What's up, guys?
Hey, how's it going, man?
Oh, good, man. How about you guys?
Nice, not too bad.
Oh my God, I can see Josh on the screen right there. It's like he's videoing in. Oh my God.
Hey.
Yeah.
This
yeah,
is
with
like
Turtle
the 21st,
Beach, buddy.
I know it's the 21st century or
right.
some shit going on here.
Aren't they supposed to turn their video off so we get better audio quality, or do we not care about that
I
shit?
don't care. It's fine. What, you look like is that your old gamer headset you got going on, Josh?
Yeah,
what are you
dude.
playing?
Turtle Beach.
What are you playing?
It's good
Yeah.
stuff.
What game are you playing?
PS4. I play Division 2.
Oh, okay. I haven't done Division 2 yet, but I'm a big Destiny
Oh, it's
2 guy.
good.
Battlefront, basically all the 2 games,
Yep.
right?
There you go. There you go.
That's how you got to do it, right?
Do you want to
stuff,
give us your handle online or here so that if anybody wants to game with you, they can join your gaming group or something?
No, I'm not that good, man. You don't want to know.
Josh,
All right,
where are you
Josh.
calling us from?
Bridger, Montana.
And
Nice.
you're a member of a homebrew club?
I am Rimrock Brewers Guild in Billings.
Nice. Oh my God, those initials don't form a pun.
Yeah, sorry about
I
that.
know.
Gee.
Yeah.
Holy cow, you
We have to
guys are
kick you
totally
off.
unique. Yeah, we're done here now.
We have
There
to
you
kick
go.
you off right now. Josh, how long you been homebrewing, man?
Probably 5 or 6 years. I started out with extract and made
Oh,
my
yeah.
way up to all grain. So
Absolutely. Okay, cool.
Yep.
And this is Cal Common. Even though
Sir.
you're not in California, you attempted this style anyway, which is very
I
ballsy of
attempted.
you. Yes, it's very ballsy of
Yes.
you. Have you done it before?
no, this is the first time.
Okay.
I did try it again, but yeah, I don't know. It was my first time with my glycol system, so
Yeah.
I had some bugs to work out. But yeah, we'll see
Okay.
how this
Does,
one goes.
Not too bad.
Yeah. Does Anchor Steam make its way out there that far to Montana?
No,
No.
that's kind of why I wanted to send it to you guys to see,
Okay.
what you guys think of it, because we don't have any good examples up here. So
It's tricky, man. It's one of those styles that I find doesn't really travel well. Whenever I get an Anchor, even in California, in
yeah,
the Bay Area, I'll have Anchor Steam that's a month and a half old, and it just kind of tastes like harsh.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, either way, bro,
Gotcha.
I'll give you our California take on this beer, man.
there you go.
Have
Sounds
you,
good.
Jason,
Yeah.
have you been to Anchor?
Yeah, a few times.
And I love Anchor, and they're great people, and I love their beer. But oh my God, they chill by like having that wort go over that external column. That's just so it gets aerated so much. That
Yeah.
to me, that's why it's perfect if you have it within the steam in particular. It's perfect to have Anchor Steam within 20 miles of the brewery. Once you get more than like 20 miles away, it gets to be kind of problematic with freshness, in my opinion.
For sure. Well, even in bars in San Francisco, I'll have a bottle, and it's like
Yeah.
you don't know. It's for me, it's one of those problematic beers because if it's not stored exactly properly, it can kind of get weird. And
That's right.
maybe I don't know how stylistically that is versus just how it's made or whatever. But Anchor Steam is great. The style is awesome when it's fresh.
exactly.
So let's
It
drink
gets
some
even
of this.
more wood or mint.
Mint, more mint. I've never gotten mint out of Northern Brew. I know that's kind of the default thing, but
Have you ever gotten wood from a Northern brewer?
well, yeah, but it was a long time ago before they sold to Anheuser-Busch. Brian Shar,
Yes.
why don't you start us off today?
That is my name. Yes, I am happy to. So this is a tough beer to judge because we were just discussing, Anchor Steam is the classic style. So you don't want to judge this like it's a clone beer where it has to be a clone of Anchor Steam, right? This is a style. It's a range of beer. And things like you're in Montana, so you didn't have a chance to have, Faction Brewing here in Alameda makes something called Tasty Vapor. They brew with Mike McDole of the Brewing Network, with him or to his recipe. And it's a little hoppier, a little different. That's a different take on Cal Common, which is good for kind of opening your eyes. So we judge this, and we tried really hard to not judge it on the grounds of whether it's a clone of Anchor Steam or not, because that's not what the guidelines are. Aroma, I thought the aroma initially was, to me, I got like a Venice and port-like sort of impression. Low hop aroma, which is fine for the style. Got kind of a fruit salad, almost honey aroma of ester. A little plastic phenol in the aroma. So overall, gave that a 7 of 12. Appearance 3 of 3. Beer's crystal clear. Head's low but persistent. Color is golden brown, exactly like it ought to be, so that's perfect. Flavor, we'll talk about this later, so I'm curious about your packaging and when you brewed this. But my initial impression was malt and paper. It got very much like a wet paper kind of oxidized character from this. Medium-high caramel character, and the caramel can kind of also be associated with an oxidation. Typically, oxidation tends to ramp up a caramel impression. Got some of the fruit salad esters and mid-palate that I'd gotten in the aroma. Bitterness comes up to balance in mid-palate, and it's slightly balanced toward the bitter, which is good, appropriate for the style, and through the finish, the bitterness kind of lingered. It's well attenuated. One thing I noticed, I didn't get a lot of hop flavor, and especially did not get that kind of woody, minty hop flavor that's kind of the signature of this style. It doesn't have to be that hop, but the hop flavor itself was kind of muted. Again, kind of consistent with maybe an older or perhaps oxidized example. So I gave this 9 out of 12 for flavor. Mouthfeel, 4 out of 5. Body's medium, carbonation low, no warming. It's not really creamy, but this is not a creamy style. That's all fine. I did get a light astringency in the finish, which is what caused me to knock a point off. I want to talk about your water treatment. I'm curious if that might have come from water treatment or from some other source. But that's 4 out of 5. Overall impression, 5 out of 10. I think this is a good beer with just a few issues. The primary one to me was the oxidation, and the sort of paper character tells me this beer might just be an older than optimal sample. And it may have been a lot better perhaps earlier, but we'll talk about that after Brian with these details about when it was brewed and when it was sent, and about your packaging. A little more estery than expected. This is a tricky yeast because this is kind of a hybrid style, right? I mean, you're taking a lager yeast and you're fermenting at higher than expected temperature. So this is, I think, a more difficult style than a typical homebrew to brew. So this ended up being a little more estery than I might have liked. If you can control fermentation temperature, we'll talk about that later too. That would be ideal. And I'm also curious about your hop selection, because if it's not Northern Brewer, at least some Northern Brewer is typically a good idea in this style. Overall, gave this 20 out of 50. That's still a good rating. I think that this is primarily the issues you might have are related to age and possibly recipe, but overall, I think your process is good. And look forward to hearing more about it later. So thanks for sharing.
Awesome. All right, Brian.
All right.
Brian Coop.
Thank you for sending your beer. We received bottles that had labels on them, and I used to bottle beers in labeled bottles, and it doesn't make a difference. But snobby people like JP will look down upon a beer that comes
100%
in a bottle that has not had its label removed. And I used to get shit from my fellow club mates about it. So I have since taken to the practice of doing the good old practice of just, soaking some PBW, get those labels off, clean the bottles, and making it look nice and pretty, like you're going to enter in a competition, even though you're just pouring it for your friends and it doesn't make a freaking difference.
Well, this is the first bottle, and you've been on the show from the jump pretty much, right? Like we've been through this before. This is the first bottles that I've had that have come from a commercial label went on, right? Mm-hmm. That haven't been contaminated. Mm-hmm. And every time before, I've called it. I said, I in my head, I'm like, this is fucking contaminated. I remember, I thought I wrote them down one time. I thought I wrote it down. I was like, see, I told you. But this one isn't, because normally it's just a point of contamination where you can carry. You can't get the bottle fully clean on the outside, and if you're messy at bottling, or if you just kind of touch something, it's just it's a point to not.
Well, the beer doesn't go from the outside of the bottle back to the inside.
No, but your hand does if you touch the cap, or if and if you're not clean with your practice. So
there could be a point of contamination, I suppose.
And it's more to me an indicator, and certainly not in this beer, but sometimes you get a beer like that, and it's an indicator that the person that bottled it doesn't really understand about sanitation or cleanliness, and it makes you more wary. It's like, oh God, what's going to be in here? Because how well did this bottle get cleaned if the label outside didn't come off?
Right.
But I didn't. That to me, I had a couple of issues with this beer, but none of them were related to contamination or lack of cleanliness.
Right. And I guess I don't know if it's to anybody's point, but it's the first time, like I said, in 6 years that we've had a bottle with labels on it that hasn't been contaminated.
Yeah.
So there you go. Sorry, Cooper. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. I just wanted to have that little conversation because I don't. Yeah, if you're careful bottling, you can bottle in a bottle like that just fine and not have a problem.
Sure.
Right.
But if you aren't careful, you might have a little chance of issue. But that said, both bottles tasted the same to me, and I didn't let it color my impression of the beer. I am that good of a judge. Medium
you
light.
should be like a Grandmaster 30 at this point, dude. You're like the double Grand Squared Master.
I don't grade enough exams for that. Aroma-wise, I'm getting a medium light caramelly and toasty malt note in there. It's pretty richly malty in there. Slightly coarse, kind of unrefined classic style hops, I guess you could say. I want to imagine some wood and mint in there and rusticness. It's a little woody, I would say. Lightly fruity with kind of a stone fruit-like note. Yeah, it does smell a little bit like a barn.
Yeah, Brian licked a barn just a second ago. Exactly.
Yeah, that's where I was the last 20 minutes.
What was his name?
Finding the nearest barn. Finding the nearest bar and licking it. That's
not Brian,
right?
Yeah, barn. Yeah.
Okay.
I hate
anyway. No DMS or diacetyl in there. It's kind of a low temp ale ferment. I didn't get any big fruitiness off of it.
Big fruity.
Like it wasn't super estery.
No.
Appearance wise, it's an amber colored beer with a light tan head. Faded fairly soon after pouring in this glass. Pretty creamy texture to the head though that was there, and some very fine bubbles. Seems like it would be a finely formed head normally, but it's kind of falling flat a little bit. Flavor wise, low caramel and toasty malt, medium low bitterness. I get a little bit of the woody, a little hint of some kind of mint or spice in there, kind of the classic American hop note. It's not a citrusy hop. It's not a super herbal or floral hop. So it's in the neighborhood for me, honestly. I'm guessing there probably is some Northern Brewer in there, because if you clone brew a steam beer or a Cal Common, you're gonna put some Northern Brewer in there. Usually, you might blend it with something else and have some fun, but hopefully it's there. We'll find out. I did get a light phenolic in this beer. It's expressing itself to me as kind of a light, plasticky and spicy and slightly medicinal kind of quality. And I get it. As I aspirate the beer, like you put a little beer in your mouth, kind of keep it in the front of your mouth, and then breathe in through that beer. So it kind of, you aspirate the beer, and it pops out a little more when I do that. It's low. It's not really high, but there's something funky in there. And I admit I'm sensitive to phenolics, but it really, there's a little edge to there that is that kind of medicinal kind of flavor. And that could come from wild yeast or anything else. We'll talk about that a little more in a bit here. So it finishes kind of semi-dry. It's not a super sweet beer. And that phenolic to me kind of lingers in the aftertaste a little bit as it dries off the tongue. Kind of remains there. I was like, yeah, there's that phenolic. Mouthfeel wise, it's medium bodied. I get a little bit biting quality a bit of a biting quality probably from the phenolic. but also possibly some astringency, which to me could be a little related. There's something a little husk-like or biting in there. Medium low carbonation. I'm feeling a bit of warming, which is odd because I didn't smell a lot of alcohol or taste a lot of alcohol. I got a slight warming impression from the beer. Not really strong, but it's a little sharp and kind of feels maybe bigger than it should be. And a little harsher than it should be. So I marked it down a bit in the mouthfeel for those kind of little details, but really overall, it's not a bad attempt at the Kilcommon style. It's right in the territory for seems like gravity wise, color wise, appearance wise, even hop wise to me. It seems like you used good ingredients. It's just a bit distracting with that phenolic, and you got to watch for contamination or any chance of any bacteria or wild yeast getting into your fermentation once you cool the wort down. Of course, the classic advice for chlorophenols especially is to avoid chlorine sanitizer. In the old days, back in the 1990s and 80s, when these early homebrewers were like,
don't use bleach, no bleach. Yes,
I use bleach. I was like, no, yeah, I'm sure you're doing things right using Star San.
Ask me when the last time I used bleach to clean was.
Iota 4 or something. That's
you killed the last prostitute you're with.
Yeah, exactly. Well, for brewing, I mean 1996-ish. Yes.
I think I would like to see a little less carameliness in this beer. And it was a good beer. I just missed the mark a little bit and had a little defect there, so I dropped it down to a 27. It's not a bad Kilcommon, and if you cleaned up those things, you could definitely get up into the 30s or higher, and keep brewing that and come taste some Anchor Steam out here fresh, as close to the source as you can get.
Exactly. At the brewery if you can. Yeah, it's a great tour. It's worth going to if you ever get down here.
The copper is beautiful there.
Yeah.
So thanks for sharing it.
Yeah. All right, Josh, you got any questions for these dudes?
Well, you guys want to go over my recipe?
Oh, yes,
please.
Yeah,
I'm not going
to
run
hear
your
it.
show, brother, but
love to hear it. Tell me everything you can tell me about this beer,
sometimes
man.
we forget to ask.
Someone's been playing the Division 2 a little too much.
Yeah, there you go.
Trying to boss me around, motherfucker. Okay, go ahead, man.
So, I kind of threw a little screwball at you guys because I didn't use lager yeast. I used SO4.
Okay.
So for my yeast, just kind of blended some stuff that I had together. So what I used is this was a 10-gallon batch, and I did 16 pounds of 2-row roar, and then I did 2.5 pounds of Crystal 40 level bond and 1.5 pounds of 80 level bond caramel, and then a pound of Cara Pils. And then for my hops, I did use Northern Brewer. I used 1.5 ounces for 60 minutes. And then I did Pearl for my last 10 minutes. I used 4 ounces of that. And then I also I split the batches because I only have the 5-gallon carboys, which I've upgraded to plastic conicals now. But I did 4 ounces of Pearl that I dry hopped for 3 days in one of my carboys, and then I blended them together. So
Interesting. Okay. I have some thoughts about that later. So when did you brew this?
It was February. Let's see, 24th of February
Of 2019.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm not my dad. Don't call me sir.
Okay.
So,
but I am my mom, so call me man.
Bad habit, man.
Do you do fermentation? Do you do fermentation temp control?
I do. Yeah. So this
what did
one,
you ferment
I've got
the
chest freezer with the ITC 1000, and then but I went away from that, and of course, being up here in Montana, we don't have to worry about cooling at that time of year.
No,
we have to worry about heating. So I used heating. In that, but now I've actually built my own glycol chiller because I'm an HVAC guy. So
oh wow,
yeah. So my next one, I've actually got a porter in the garage right now.
Damn.
But yeah, so I have that with the fast ferments, the 14 gallons. But yeah,
Okay, so you're fermenting in the fast ferment, which is like a thick plastic. That's nothing wrong with that. It's oxygen impermeable generally.
Yep.
So how did you bottle this beer to ship to us from the fast ferments?
So I didn't do this from the fast ferment. This beer is from the 5-gallon glass carboys.
Oh, okay. So then, how did you get it from the carboy to the bottle?
I just did a transfer to the bucket, and then transferred it on top of sugar, and then did natural carbonation.
Okay.
Just did that and then bottled it off of that.
That's really weird because to me, I mean, that's not dissimilar to what I've done for many years. I don't quite do that now, but it's I've entered beers for comp, and I've I've placed with beers I've done just that way. And to me, I mean, it's just kind of odd that this comes across to me in a lot of ways as like really oxidized. But so I'm kind of wondering where the oxygen is coming from because this is only like 3 months old.
Is it just that your crystal malt?
Maybe the crystal malt is making me think oxidized when it's not.
What crystal malt did you use again?
I used so 12% of 40 and then 7% of 80.
That's
a lot of crystal to me.
That's what Jason. You're right. Jason, you're right. This is a recipe thing and not an oxidation thing because that's a lot of dark crystal.
I'm not getting oxidation, but I do get the phenol.
And that's what that's to me what's coming across as oxidized. It's like that huge caramel flavor from the darker crystal. And also to me, you talked about your hop schedule. I'm sorry, I'm going to just jump in with some stuff here. The Northern Brewer doesn't have to be the signature hop, but the reality is that's the quote signature hop for this style. And you put the Northern Brewer in at the very beginning for bittering, so most of the flavor and aroma character doesn't come out with that. And you end up with Perle, and Perle is a perfectly fine hop. I like Perle for a lot of things. But if you want to have that kind of, quote, woody, minty, rustic, the thing the style calls for, I would have at least probably half. I would shift your hops around. Use whatever you want for bittering. I would have probably 50% of your late hops be Northern Brewer, maybe mixed with Perle, right? Because what we're getting for the flavor and the aroma, and I kind of noted that in my score sheet, you're kind of missing that minty / woody Northern Brewer flavor, which doesn't have to be 100% of the flavor or even, half. But in terms of trying to hit what the style says, that would probably help you out a lot to maybe flip around your hop schedule a little bit to have more Northern Brewer toward the end.
Okay. That sounds good. So also, I stored this in my pantry, so I let it, get carbonation and stuff like that. And then I just left it in there. And then basically just I think I might have cooled it before I shipped it to you guys, but I don't think so. So would that have any effect too? That I just kind of stored it about 70 or something like that.
Did you cap on foam?
No, it's bottle conditioned.
No,
or did you cap on? Or did you? I guess not cap on foam, but did you?
Yeah.
I mean, even that little because you're going to have secondary fermentation. I've always believed that little bit of oxygen in the headspace gets consumed during
scavenged. Yeah, that's what I feel like too.
So I don't feel like I gotta. This came across to me as really oxidized. And when you talk about your recipe, our discussion we just had, what that's telling me is what I'm tasting is your recipe, and not oxidation.
Yeah, I think Brian, it's a little sweet, and that's really the issue.
Yeah, I thought there was a little too much caramel, but I didn't get big oxidation.
No, I mean to me it came across more like a tannic raisin. And that's how I kind of know that it's not necessarily oxidation, because for me, oxidation's a little sweeter, but it's like raisiny but dry.
A tannic raisin, that's an interesting...
right? It's weird, right?
Yeah, that's a good that's a good pearl raisin, of wisdom. Right? A good perle of wisdom you gave us, Jason.
How minty.
Actually pronounced perla in the German.
I totally messed it up.
Yeah.
It's okay. It is the German word for pearl, so you can say pearl. That's fine.
Okay.
My ancestors are slapping me from their grave right now. Yes,
probably.
Perla.
So my water also, guys, is really hard up here. We have really alkaline water.
Nice.
So I cut it with phosphoric acid, and I added 10 mils of 75% actually to try and cut that water down, which I have actually recently went to RO water that I have now in my house. So I'm actually going to cut that, half and half with well water and then also with RO to kind of help the minerals out. But man, my alkaline is just,
that's going to help.
Really hard. It's not very hard, but it's really hard.
Yeah.
Josh, I'll tell you this: your water treatment, I didn't notice at all, which is the goal. And I'll tell you, the single biggest flaw that I've seen in competitions judging in the last 2 or 3 years is people over adjusting their water. And you get a beer and it's like licking a rock. And people are adjusting and they don't understand their base water. They don't understand how to adjust their RO. They do something and it just overly minerally, metallic, or bad. Whatever you're doing for your water, you are spot on with your water.
If you don't
because
know,
I don't notice it. If you hadn't told me, I wouldn't have known.
Yeah. If you don't know exactly where you're starting, you can never get to where you're wanting to go.
So that's all from Jamil and John on Brew Strong, and then
those guys,
with the session and
whatever you're doing with your water, keep doing it because I can't. That's the key thing. I can't tell, and that's the way it ought to be.
Okay. Yeah. Right.
That's right.
Go easy when in doubt. Go light. Okay.
Anything else, man? Or
nope. I think that's it. Yeah. Just kind of switch them. What would you guys think about like my crystal malts? Just reduce both of them. You think, or what?
I think I would drop the 80 more than the 40.
I don't think you need it.
I might even just take it out.
Well, but I do like the two different crystal malts. I kind of a fan of layering your crystal malt, so maybe you could go down and do like a 20-40 or whatever.
You can also layer with more of a toasty malt,
a Vienna or a Munich. But I would definitely bring down that 80 maybe by 30, 40, 50%.
I don't think you need it in there at all. I think Cala Common should not have those kind of more raisiny notes to it.
It's giving it some of the color that's nice, but it's also darker than Anchor Steam, so you don't need all that color. So
try like a 15 or a 20. Like I like Crystal 15 has a really good flavor. Like
some Parapils in there too.
Yeah. So that's true.
Yeah, it's already kind of doing some of that.
I mean, and what you have 7% of the 80, was it?
Yeah, 7%. Yep.
Yeah. So ultimately, Josh, I think you just had. I thought you had process problems, but you have just a few minor recipe things. Just tweak it; it's going to be great. Send it back to us.
Do you think you could just kill it? I mean, 7% is a lot.
Yeah.
Maybe take it down maybe take it down to 2%.
Yeah, two or three. If you want to keep it, make it 2 or 3.
You'll get a little dimension, right? You'll still get a little dimension out of there, which is kind of the goal.
A little color, a little bit of a what is that flavor in the background kind of thing.
Gotcha.
I don't know.
Okay.
And then 12%.
And then what about the
you're right,
the yeast?
Jason. 7% is a lot.
Something too, or no?
Oh, sorry.
Yeast?
Go ahead.
Is the yeast?
Oh, the yeast. Since I didn't use lager yeast.
It was, there was you picked up on a little more fruitiness, I think, Brian.
Yeah. I think that regardless of what yeast, the point of the yeast, I mean, you want to. This is such a weird style, right? Because classically, it's a lager yeast fermented hot to get esters. But you want to have a little ester character. So however you get there, right? Whether it's with SO4 or something, and you ferment at whatever temperature to give it a little ester, or you use lager yeast, you ferment warm. It's a tough. This is why I think this is a really hard style to homebrew, because it's one where temp really becomes an issue, right, Brian? What do you think?
Well, since you have the ability to do a 10-gallon batch, I would take a 10-gallon batch and ferment half of it with the lager yeast at low 60 degrees and half of it with your ale yeast that it really wasn't bad, but maybe just keep it low so it's not giving it a lot of fruitiness.
Right.
Well, I wonder if you can just make a starter and put it at low 60s with high end for the lager yeast, put it in the fridge or whatever, and then do the same with a high ale yeast, and then you just taste, because really you're just looking for the flavors that are kicking off. I mean, I know it's going to be different, but if they're anywhere 60% to where they would be in a beer, then maybe that's the route you try. So you can do a bunch of different trials if you're just trying to figure out what method pushes the phenols and the esters that you want, right?
Yeah, I mean, classically, just get a clean German lager yeast and do it that way, because that's the classic way. But again, your ale yeast, it wasn't It wasn't like, oh my God, it's so fruity to me.
Right.
It was, you can do a similar thing, but it's not the classic way to do it. So I would try to stick to as classic. My judge advice to you would be stick to as classic as you can do.
Yeah.
I think you're really close, man.
Agreed.
Okay. Cool. Well, thanks, guys. I think that's it.
Yeah.
And always good listening to you guys.
Thanks a lot, man. I appreciate it.
Don't listen to those other shows, though.
Thank you for sharing.
All right, later, man.
Yeah. All right.
Bye. Cool. All right.
Yeah.
We're going to take a break here, Bev. What do you think of that? You ready for a break?
She's not union.
She gives me the thumbs up, and so that means it's break time, everybody. All right, we're going to take a break. We're going to come back. We're going to speak with Kevin with his Doppelbock. He's in studio, so we don't have to worry about watching a video of him. We get him in real life.
We do have to worry about him,
I appreciate.
Hurting us if we don't like his beer.
Lunging over the table. And,
tough kid.
Well, you guys are closer than I am, so I'm all right.
He's sitting right next to me. I'm going to get my ass kicked.
All right, everybody. This is Dr. Homebrew. We'll be right back.
I'm sorry to tell you this, but we're going to have to pour you out.
Back to Dr. Homebrew.
Hey, thanks for hanging on, everybody. Appreciate it.
They didn't. They just turned it off after that last segment.
Big preaches go out to you guys for listening to this show. All right, Kevin, man, what's up, dude?
Not much.
Why not?
I was hanging out here.
Welcome to the
All right.
studio.
That's cool, man. Let me turn you up a little bit here. So you got a Doppelbock, man. That's cool. You brewed a Doppelbock before?
Nope, this was my first lager.
Oh, damn. Okay.
Really? Your first lager was a Doppelbock?
Yeah.
You are a brave man.
Yeah, it was a Doe's internal club comp that we did. So I brewed this with Max Brown and Damian Clausen of Club Doe's.
Okay.
Nice.
Good company.
So yeah, it was a challenge, kind of, brew bigger styles, and so this is my first Doppelbock.
Nice.
Wow.
Decocted? No.
How many?
We're not
how many,
crazy.
How many beers have you brewed before this? Generally,
At
roughly
this point-
speaking.
well, you already judged the beers. So this was brewed in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about a year and a half old now. And at that point, probably 50 beers on my belt.
Nice. Very good.
Okay. Yeah, not too shabby. All right, let's get some poured and let's drink some Doppelbock. What do you guys think?
I'm down.
We've done this for 6 years and we're still waiting for the beers to be poured. Coming back from break, Bev.
Oh, yeah. That's some nice
that my
radio right
job?
there.
No, I'm just commenting. If you wanted to be, a producer job, for example, that could be a producer job
I
too.
don't produce this show. I run the video on this show.
Yeah, it's producing.
No, son.
No? Wow,
I
this
tried
look-
to warm it up a little bit. That took extra time, JP, and perfection takes time. So don't complain.
Don't ask how we
Yeah,
warmed it
just
up.
don't complain.
Then what
I've been
would I
working
do?
this job for 6 years. I could quit anytime I want.
You sure can. It'd probably be better for your mental health.
Yeah.
Beer looks good. I give it a 50. Let's go. All right.
Okay,
Into
done.
the show.
50.
Show over. Thanks
Thanks for
everybody.
coming,
Good
Kevin.
night.
Can you imagine we just ended the show? Kevin's like, what the fuck? I've been sitting here for 2 hours for that.
We're not even going to talk about the beer.
Yeah. All right, Brian Cooper.
Well, we know it's not decocted, so
It's
I just
true.
deducted 5 points. The bottle had a good fill, nice hiss when we opened it. In the nose, strongly malty, some definite Maillard byproducts in there. Those flavors that come up with the color reactions. It's a nice, well, they used to call them melanoidins, but that's really more of a color product. So there's the whole change that, they still have to come up with just a good word for that. I think a word should be invented for Maillard byproducts because I really don't like saying that. I liked saying melanoidins better, but anyway, I digress. Lightly caramelly, bread crust-like malt, cleanly and lightly spicy alcohol. It's a clean, lightly spicy alcohol. This is the second show of the night, and we've had a little bit of beer.
Let's do a third show, Brian.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Danger, Will Robinson. There's no obvious hop aroma. You don't need any hop in this beer. It smells really rich and smooth. It's inviting. It seems very cleanly lagered, and that nice rich aroma and the alcohol makes you want to take a sip before you even look at the appearance. But as a judge, you have to look at the appearance, and it's beautiful. It's a nice reddish, light copper color with it has some reddish orange highlights. It's brilliantly clear. The head did fade fairly quickly after being poured, probably due to the alcohol in this beer, which is pretty evident in the nose, and then we get into the flavor and yep, I taste some alcohol. It's probably on the stronger end for the style, I would say. This beer is richly malty with malty. Stop me now.
Brian's already dead. That's
I
how high
think
alcohol
is this warming, Brian? Are you warming up a little right now?
The drunk history version of Dr. Homebrew. Notes of bread crust.
Balls, yeah.
There's some biscuity flavors in there, and it's got a light toffee and caramel sweetness to it. Definitely some Maillard products again in the flavor. It's balanced firmly to the malt, of course, as it should be. Low bitterness is out of the way. Clean lager ferment. Really nice clean lager ferment. For your first lager, holy shit. You were in good company there, so I think you probably learned from some good people.
Oh, yeah.
And keep making these lagers. Very firm alcohol throughout. It is maybe a bit prickly, sharp. It does come through pretty intense. And
like camping.
It lingers into the aftertaste with the malt. And that alcohol is like 1-2 punch. It's like big malt, big alcohol. Just a long finish. It just keeps going. Mouthfeel was medium full bodied, I would say. It's almost full bodied, but it's not like the biggest, most syrupy beer you've ever had. Honestly, it's not like barley wine kind of mouthfeel. It's just a little lighter and somewhat more delicate than that, but not delicate in any sense of the imagination here. Low carbonation, firm alcohol warmth. I would say medium-high warmth. That is a bit biting to me, but also welcome. And the beer nonetheless is somewhat smooth and creamy, despite everything else that's going on here and being fairly big and a lot of warmth. But it's smooth warmth, I guess you could say. It's not really hot warmth, but it does pack a little punch. It does bite a little bit.
Okay.
So overall, it's a big double buck. Kind of towards the medium light side of the style. You can go really dark and add some chocolatey flavors, but you don't need to. I think the middle ground is kind of a nice place for it to be with this kind of coppery color instead of getting towards brown.
Mm-hmm.
They don't all have to be brown. It's a very nicely crafted beer. I would say nice job on that. The alcohol could be smoothed out a bit or possibly even just reduce it a little bit with what you have here to let it play a little better with everything else. But you could sip a lot of this. It's some additional aging may also smooth it out, even if it's already 2 years in. But I think it's just going to keep getting better for maybe another year or two. And find a way to, if you can, improve that head retention a bit. The alcohol could be standing in your way here. And dropping that back a bit may improve that as well. But also look at what proteins you're leaving in there. I don't know if you did a protein rest or anything like that. You probably don't need to with the, well modified malts these days, and just let it be. But it's a nice beer. I gave it a 40. I thought it's a fantastic double buck.
Excellent. All right, Mr. Shar.
Yeah, I largely agree with what Brian just said. This is a really wonderful beer. Not just saying this because Kevin's sitting right next to me who kicked my ass in like 3 seconds.
You should kick your own ass.
Professional ethical considerations as doctors of homebrew require us to speak the truth about the beers that we evaluate, right? So aroma that's again, God, you guys.
There's a code of ethics.
This is like good stuff. I'm laying down pearls here. There should be laughter and some shit. Come on, you guys.
There should be.
What do you mean, perlays?
Maybe my perlays are like a lot smaller than I thought. Anyway, the aroma starts off malty with definite bread crust breadiness, like a Doppelbock should. You go to a fancy restaurant and they bring out that basket of bread at the beginning, and it smells so good. That's what this beer smells like, is that fancy basket of different breads, and you eat that bread, and you have the bread is so good, and the crust is so good. But it's very Jay.
Well, and
Jason's like, I wish you guys at home could see Jason's expression right now.
He's romanticizing about the basket of breads, but that's what freaking Maillard byproducts are.
Right.
It's a bread like the browning reactions that happen on the outside of a bread crust, and you get a fresh basket of bread, are the same reactions that happen in the malts and the brewing process and the fine crafting of a beer like this.
That's correct.
That bring along these flavors that you expect and you need to have in a double bock.
Thank you, Brian Cooper.
They're hard to get. So
Brian Cooper.
Thank you so much.
Continue, Brian. Don't listen to JP.
Because the thing is, it's not just bread crust, right? You look at the guidelines. It's not like, it's a one-dimensional thing. A Doppelbock is a richly malty, very complex beer that has bready, toasty crust. It's not it's not like, I'm going to eat a crust of some rye bread. Nobody wants to do that just by itself. It's got complexity, right? So this aroma has a lot of complexity.
Layers.
Okay, layers, exactly. There's no hop aroma, fine for style. No off aromas. As it warms up, I get kind of a plum character. Jason, I'm looking like, why is Jason laughing
because
at
I'm
me
making
again?
fun of Bev. Don't worry about it.
He was
keep going.
trying to convince me that there was a
God.
booger on my face.
You keep going, Brian. Don't worry. Don't derail Brian.
Your face is fine. I'm
There's
just
no
gonna
boogers
ignore.
on your face.
It's the
people.
second episode. It's the second beer of the second episode. I'm fine.
Nobody derail the Char train, please.
Yeah, I
Let's go.
love it. Whoop whoop.
We never know where it'll end up. We got 10 minutes left in this show.
Oh,
Let's
God.
go.
And next, he's going to compliment the beer for not being hazy.
So the plummy is like a classic character for this type of beer. This definitely has a plum aroma as it warms, and that plumminess is related to the breadiness and the crustiness. Really well done. 9 out of 12 aroma. Appearance, 3 out of 3. This beer is crystal clear. brown with ruby highlights, perfect color. Heads low because of the high alcohol, but also very persistent. So you couldn't do any better. 3 of 3. Flavor-wise, initially the flavor is rich malt, bread crust, with some sweet ethanol. And it's not rough ethanol, right? Sometimes you have a higher alcohol beer like this, and we'll talk about your ABV later on. Sometimes you get a big beer, and the fusels make it just harsh and nasty. Yeah. There is some sweet ethanol at the beginning that really just melds well with the flavor here. There is some toasty character comes up mid-palate. Overall, complex and interesting. Balance is slightly toward malt. The hopping is great, right? A beer like this is difficult. You don't want it to be, this cannot be hop-oriented, but it can't be hop absent, or it's going to be this sweet mess that's going to not taste like anything good. The balance is just perfect. The malt is just a little more than the hop bitterness, which is the way it ought to be. Carries all the way through the finish. It's well attenuated. As it warms, the alcohol gets a tinge of harshness. That's all I can say wrong is as it warms up, maybe it's a little harsh, but overall, 15 out of 20 for flavor. This is just amazing beer. Mouthfeel, of course, it's Doppelbock. It's warming. Gosh, duh. Body's medium high. Carbonation's low. Again, fine. Leans toward creaminess. It's not a creamy beer, but if you're going to say, is it creamy or not, it's smooth. And this is the accomplishment of this beer, it's a high alcohol, high malt, smooth beer. Well done. Mission accomplished, 5 out of 5. Overall impression, I gave it an 8 out of 10. I really like this beer a lot. It's tasty, it's flavorful, it's complex. A slight amount more carbonation might be helpful. Right? I didn't knock any points off for carbonation. Carbonation was in range. I think maybe a little more carbonation, just maybe by like 10% or so, might make this beer stand up a little more. It might help drive off a little bit of the alcohol. And then as far as the very slight alcohol harshness, and I don't know if you deal with that by maybe backing off on fermentables by maybe 5%, or if you deal with that with temperature control. But I got to believe your temperature control is pretty much perfect, because otherwise this beer would have been a nasty mess as it was. But overall, it's a 40. I give this a 40. Yeah. This is a really, really well-made. I can't believe this is your very first lager, man. This is just amazing.
There's no fusels. And, we should talk about pitching rates for a beer like this, too, because you really have to pay attention. And neither one of us is getting any big fusels here, which would be just a telltale sign of underpitching. It doesn't seem like you messed up there at all. So, yeah.
Excellent.
Tell us how you brewed it and
please do.
what you put into it.
Yeah, so this is from Brewing Classic Styles, basically. So it's basically 70% Munich, 20% Pilsner, and then 10% Cara Munich malt. It's got 1.5 ounces of Hallertau for 60 minutes and half an ounce of Hallertau for 30 minutes. So
that's it.
5 gallon.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's all there is. What's the percent of alpha acid then? Probably like 4%. Wow.
Yeah. So
that's really amazing that the bitterness came up the
IBUs,
balance so well with such a kind of small. What's your batch size? 5 or 10 gallons?
This was a 15-gallon batch.
15.
But it was
my God!
It was split 3 ways for the 3 brewers that were.
But it was like 1.5 ounces or so. You say of Hallertau for the bittering.
So that I gave you the 5 gallon
for the 5 gallon.
Gotcha. Sorry. Okay,
that's fine. But
understood.
So I think starting gravity was around 1086, and it finished around 1014. It is about 9.5%.
That did attenuate well. Wow.
Well done.
That lets
God.
some of the toastiness and some of the richness shine better than if you have too much sweetness there, I think.
Yes.
So yeah, I did a starter of WLP 830 and 833, like kind of wanted some of the characters from both, and did a big starter, pitched in about the typical
lager amount.
Did
you happy slurry? Yeah.
Fermentation control.
Did it accomplish what you wanted? Did you
and the funny thing is
the flavors that you wanted from either strain?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I did. I've really been high on this beer since we made it. Like since I fermented it, it turned out really well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But I have gotten varying scores throughout the years, like on this beer, from 29s to 42s.
29s, really?
29s
Damn, dude.
I can't imagine this beer ever getting a 29.
Yeah. So that's really why I would reach out to Brian, because these are like the last 3 bottles I have of this one. So I'm
thank you very much for sharing these last 3 with us, man. These are really good.
Yeah. But I kind of wanted to get like a expert opinion on it.
And you said you're going to be brewing this one again this weekend?
Yeah.
Or?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely do
We'll
it.
have to taste it down the road with you, brother.
Do you have any questions about anything? But I mean, it sounds like you shouldn't. I mean,
no, it was just good to kind of get like I guess the final, like, hey, even after a year and a half, the beer is still
the final say, baby.
Yeah, kind of.
That's what we do here.
Yeah, I mentioned the alcohol a few times. It's definitely noticeable, and you said it was what, 9.5?
Yeah.
So yeah, it dried out. It started high, dried out pretty low, and left a lot of alcohol in there.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, I'd be interesting to taste this one if it attenuated even a little less and left a little more sweetness and had a little less alcohol in it. I think that it might just be a little smoother that way. But
so yeah, of the 3 brewers that were involved, I think one of them dried out to like 10, and it was too much. One of them finished it like in the 20s, and it was too sweet.
Yeah.
Mine was just like.
So you're the Goldilocks.
blend.
I was right. I was in the right zone. It worked out good. So
no, it's
Kevin, how many lagers have you made since this?
2. A Vienna lager last year that went to nationals.
Oh wow, nice.
Should have rebrewed it and I didn't, and it, whatever.
That's the conundrum, man.
And then a sports beer, but I mean most of the time it's.
You know what, man? Brew what you want to brew that makes you happy, but you are doing some good stuff with lager brewing. If you brew more lagers, as far as I'm concerned, man.
That's right.
I definitely like them.
Try a decoction next time.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm ever going to do that.
A triple decoction. You want a 15-hour brew day, right?
3% of melanoid.
I mean, you could do like a single step if you really hate yourself that day or whatever.
We'll see how it goes.
All right, well, we're done then, right, boys?
I guess that's it.
I think so.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in to Dr. Homebrew. If you are a home brewer, and of course you are, because why would you be listening to this otherwise? If you're, like a welder and you just really like hearing other people geek out, this is weird. But if you're a home brewer, email Brian at thebrewingnetwork.com, and Mr. Cooper over here will get you squared away to get on the show.
Yeah.
And it'll be a good time.
We're always looking for fresh blood.
That's right.
To critique beers. And no, honestly, like, it can be a beer you just want feedback on. It can be a beer that you think is great and all your friends love, but you're not sure. Maybe there's something bothering you a little bit about it or whatever. Any beer.
That's what we're here for, man.
Good or bad or ugly, we don't care. And
absolutely.
we don't judge. Well, we judge, but
That's
we
true.
don't judge.
Yeah, we judge your beer, not you.
Yeah,
How about
exactly.
that? Judge the beer, not
as
the
far
brewers.
as you know.
That's the BJCP credo. Judge the beer, not the... Anyway, all right, everybody. Thanks a lot for tuning in, and until next time.
Dankeschön.
There you go.
Good night.